Good evening, and we are back with another episode of We the People.
With, hey,
I'm sorry.
Or the political person.
I kind of threw you on the spot with that one. I wasn't even preparing you for that one. But I want to thank everybody for logging in and tuning in for We the People, and we're back on another Sunday night. We got the folks back. The rest of the folks are on vacation, which I'm sure was well deserved. They had fun away on the West Coast and doing their thing. And while we're back here in the studio working. But anyway, we'll get into that in another show. Thank you guys. There's a lot that's going on in the political world right now. One of the more bigger things that are happening is what is Congress doing? Now, these are the legislators. These are the people that's supposed to make things happen. These are the same people supposed to keep the president accountable. But have they? I guess we'll get into a discussion about that tonight. Let's do a quick introduction. I got my brother on the other side who is the master of this particular show. How you doing, man?
Doing fine. We're back.
We're back. You got kind of like a Washington accent now. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just joking.
Washington, not D.C.
Not D.C. No.
Okay.
Washington State.
Okay, those apples.
Them apples.
Those
And the
apples.
rain.
Yes.
Or the overcast. Or
Yes.
whatever they have.
Well, should I look all grungy? Like,
Yeah, that's another one. Yeah, grungy. You need some
Oh.
checker. You got the checker on. Well, it's not really checker.
Nah,
You know.
I think I'm offending Washingtonians.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And plus my team won today, so I'm pretty excited about that.
Oh,
That's one good thing that happened.
the Washington team.
The Washington
Football team.
The
Oh.
Breaking and Go.
Oh, okay.
Formerly
Breaking and
known
Go.
as.
That's why I'm wearing yellow today.
Okay.
Kind of matches my complexion. It was kind of camouflage, but don't laugh.
Are you gonna be a hater today?
I'll probably.
Okay.
Especially if Dallas. Well, they're going to California to play. So anyway, that's a different show. So we also got the famous Michelle. How are you?
Great. How are you doing?
You know, it's something about your smile that kind of makes me feel warm and fuzzy.
Oh.
And I probably shouldn't say that in front of Aya, but you got to know the truth.
It's
No.
okay.
People checking you out.
I am not offended, but
You flattered, right?
yes.
Because a strong man would be like, yeah, talk about my lady like that. Yeah. But she does have an infectious smile. I have to say that. And she's smart.
Oh.
You know, you don't always get beauty and brain in the same place. You know what I'm saying? It's just, it don't always work that
I
way.
mean,
You like that?
of course I lucked out. There's more than a unicorn. There's more than one unicorn.
Right.
But I've been told she's a unicorn.
Okay, all right. There you go. She's just taking it all in. She's not even commenting. But that's good. You know, she's smart. She's thinking. And we have one of the other smartest people on the show.
She's another unicorn.
She's
Yeah.
definitely a unicorn.
She's definitely
No, unicorn.
Unicorn.
And unicorn.
Unicorn.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Got it.
Rare.
She is. She really
Yes,
is.
thank you.
And we were lucky to find her. And she's been a permanent fixture since she's been here.
Yay.
Thank you.
And she's been more than an individual contributor.
Thank you.
She's been a contributor. She's not an individual, she's a contributor. With the hazel color eyes, Hazel.
Thank you.
I'm gonna call you Hazel. by
You
short.
call me Hazel.
Yeah.
Well, I don't have a middle name, so.
There it is. Well, you probably don't want that one. Nah.
No.
Are you guys ready to get started tonight? Because I done went way off topic already. We ain't even got into the topic. Congress.
Yes.
A lot of things been going on this year with Congress.
Mhm.
You know, plus them also getting prepared, at least the Senate. A lot of
Yes.
people getting prepared for the election.
Mm-hmm.
But even prior to that, even with that included, there have been some bills that has been proposed
Propose.
and actually passed by the House.
Yes.
They are sitting on your friend's desk.
The Senate Majority Leader,
Yes,
Mitch
that guy.
McConnell's desk.
That guy.
And just to let everybody know, both houses have a leader,
Yep.
and they decide what bills get talked upon, get reviewed, and get voted on.
Right.
Pelosi has one side of the House,
The lower house.
the lower house,
Yep.
and McConnell has, because of more Republicans in the Senate,
Mhm.
he's the leader there.
Right.
And so, there are 395 bills.
That many.
Yes.
Yeah.
This year alone?
Yes.
Or just
Mhm.
since
Since this term,
Congress?
this
Yeah.
term, this Congress.
Wow.
So,
What's going to happen to those bills?
you know,
That's a good
they're
question.
I'm just a
The bill.
bill.
sitting
on
on
the
Capitol
bill.
Hill, but this time she's gonna die on Capitol Hill.
Pretty much.
Wow.
He
I
said
didn't
he's
know
not
that.
going to pass them.
Okay, so.
And,
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
and his reasoning is, you know, he doesn't really give a good reason other than he feels that he tells the public that these are not good bills, even though they've been voted on by the House of Representatives.
Right.
I feel that it should at least be on up to vote.
And some of them have bipartisan support.
Right.
Yes,
Right.
and yet he doesn't want, people to be on record who
Right.
are against it. So leaving them vulnerable for voting, so they can stay in power.
So can we, since we're talking about the Senate and Congress, can we real quickly touch on the stimulus package that still has not been agreed upon and signed on by the Senate?
Okay. To recap, the CARES Act, everybody knows that was to put money back in our pockets,
Right.
give a handout to corporations, billions of dollars.
Right. Trillions of dollars.
Yes.
Yeah.
Try to help people with the rent and the mortgage.
And it helped the airline industry
Yes.
through September.
Yes.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. So we only are weeks
Wow.
away when that goes away.
Right.
So the current bill that was being negotiated, well, in May, the House had put on Mitch McConnell's desk the
$3.4 trillion bill.
yes, that was the HEALS Act. No, not the HEALS Act.
Heroes.
HEROES Act. The Republicans said, no, we don't like this bill. But instead of, putting out their own bill, they
Mhm.
waited.
Yep.
They waited. And then they brought out the
And then they went on
HEALS.
recess.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
They took a break. They took a vacation.
Yes. And then McConnell has said to the chief of staff, well, you just take it. You'll do it.
Yeah.
That and the Treasury Secretary?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So had
And-
them
and-
negotiate with Nancy in Congress.
Yeah. And the chief of staff,
the White House.
for the White House.
For the White House, right.
Mnuchin.
Yeah.
Yes.
And by the way, the chief of staff has been on the job for like 4 months.
That's right.
So you're going to hand power to the country to the chief of staff.
Right.
And just talk about it. And Trump just saying, whatever. Sort of gave some guidance.
Mhm.
So they're negotiating, excluding the Senate, which should be doing their job.
Right.
Months go by, they put out the HEALS Act.
Mhm.
The HEALS Act didn't even get voted on
No.
because the Republicans in his own group didn't feel like it was necessary.
Well, I know one of the things that McConnell said when it came to the employment.
Mhm.
Unemployment was that if we give people too much money, they won't want to go back to work. But there are no jobs to go to right now.
Yeah. You can get
Those
sick.
jobs didn't open back up. Some of them are gone forever.
Yeah. And if you get sick, you're not guaranteed for any health.
Right. And he was looking to protect businesses from being sued, lawsuits and stuff like that, malpractice or whatever it was. A person goes to, like you guys coming here, could sue me if you caught corona.
Mhm.
Well, of course, I could benefit from that. But the bottom line is, majority of people can.
Yeah.
But, his justification was, to me, in my opinion, was based on someone who really is completely out of touch and only focusing on people that he feels is paid to keep him in the Senate, which is those big businesses and extremist groups, call them extremist groups, because that's probably not the right term for it.
Yeah.
But that's what I think he's looking out for. And he's been looking out for those type of people from day one.
Mhm.
And I think that's what the whole Republican Party has been since, like, Reagan, right?
Yeah.
Focus on big
Yeah.
business.
Special interest.
Yeah.
Special interest. There it is. I'm sorry. That's-
Before I pass
Yes.
off the mic,
Yes.
I just want to let you know that even though the House passed $3 trillion, they were willing to negotiate with the Senate so they
Right.
can put out a bill so they can both of them pass it
And I
together.
think the House came down $1 trillion, right?
Yes, so they could negotiate to about $2 trillion. First, the Republican Senate said, with including the White House,
Mm-hmm.
said $1 trillion.
Right.
And okay, they said $2 trillion. Said no. Instead of when you normally negotiate anything, you want to get halfway. The Republicans, when they put up this new bill,
Which was a skinny bill or something they called it?
yes, the skinny bill.
Yeah.
It was skinny.
It was skinny. Yeah,
Nothing in it.
it was anorexic.
Right.
Um,
For real.
it was
Right.
it was 500 bill.
Right.
Not even a trill. 500 bill. So,
It's a slap in the face.
it's up in the face. So, if you're negotiating something for your own people, or in this case, the American people,
Mm-hmm.
people are saying that Pelosi should just take what they get.
Right.
I mean, do you guys feel that?
Why would you take that? Because
Why?
then what leg does she have to go back and negotiate for more?
Yes.
Correct.
They've already cut. They won't do the 2 that she wants. They won't do the 1 that they originally put out there. They're going to cut it that much more. She's supposed to say, okay, cool, let's take this and we'll work it out.
And I think that what they cut, that $5 billion, was to cut out support for schools and hospitals and stuff. Or was it
They
states?
did.
States. Was it states
COVID
and local?
States.
Because they said the states had not spent the money that they had been allocated in the first bill.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
And they didn't even include another $1,200 check.
So what do you think the motivation was behind that? Because what I gather is because, fine, they're looking at, and this is a Trump agenda, that they're saying we're not going to put this bill out blanketly to everybody because we know that the Democratic-run states are not managing the money properly. So, and then McConnell has said on certain occasions that some of those states should just go ahead and file bankruptcy. So that was early on, like back in March, he was saying stuff like that, but that didn't change. The stripes don't change that fast. So that's what I think it is. You know, they said we're going to trim all the stuff out. We don't really want the Democratic states to get any credit for it, and you can't put something out just for Republicans because no one will allow it. The people wouldn't allow it. But that's just my justification. What do you guys think?
Well, the reality is that, you know, more taxpayers are in Democratic states.
That is correct. And the sneaky thing that they did is, with the unemployment tax, they have given the $300 per week.
Right.
And they have given it retroactively. So that was released this
Yes.
past week.
But that was,
You talking about unemployment?
well,
The unemployment.
yeah. So-
Actually, it's about to run out. I think they had like 6 weeks
It depends
Yeah,
on the
it's 6
state.
weeks.
because it came from FEMA,
Yeah.
I think, right?
Right.
Yeah, it was
Exactly.
redirected. It was approved funds
Right.
that were redirected from FEMA.
Correct.
So did they do this everywhere? Because wasn't there supposed to be
No.
like another
Certain states
$100
adopted.
that the states are supposed to fill
Certain
in?
states they could afford the
Absolutely. They
$100.
could
They
afford
did.
it.
Okay.
Texas
They did.
couldn't. So
So-
Texas didn't do it.
Texas did.
They didn't do the extra 100.
They did. The
Well, don't you have
300.
to
They
do-
didn't do the extra.
No,
They
they-
just did
okay.
flat
they did
300.
change
So you
it.
still get the 300 even if your state can't do the extra 100?
Correct.
Right.
Okay, all right.
They gave an option, and that was
Right.
part of the executive
Exactly.
Okay.
order that
Yeah.
y'all friend said.
So knowing that McConnell usually don't pass to put up bills that they know they can't pass,
Right.
they want to be on the record that the Democratic senators
Of
said
course.
no.
Right.
So to appear that they don't care,
Right.
and they're greedy. They want to do. They mentioned they said within their bill they want to give extra help to their constituents, which, you know, the whole act of Congress is to work for your own people.
Right.
Right.
You know, you work with other representatives
Right.
to get what you need for your own people who
Mhm.
represent you represent.
Right.
But the other thing that they did too is they acted as if they are working to minimize the deficit.
Right.
And that was another, key reason why they did not pass the additional amount. And so
You know,
now
yeah.
all of a sudden they're concerned about the deficit. And what is it right now? How many?
Well, it raised 40% more than it ever been.
Right.
So where is it now?
It's
Last
it's,
I remember it was like
it's
27
neck
trillion.
it's neck
right?
and neck with the GDP, the gross domestic
Wow.
product.
Wow.
Yeah, like it's really it's bad. The bill will come due. So, but as of now,
Yeah.
you know, we're still in a pandemic.
Right.
That is a ridiculous, reason to not, give the people who need
Yeah.
it. The-
In the middle of a pandemic, now you're concerned about the deficit
Yeah, well-
versus your constituency.
There's still 50 million people who don't have a job.
So let's go back for a second. The first CARES Act that came out in, was it March? Was
Yeah.
it March that Congress, that both
Yes.
sides had
Yes.
passed, right?
And they passed within a week.
Within
2
Because
weeks.
they already knew what they were doing.
Yes.
Right. So
They
let's,
already
let's,
had
let's
it.
go back and recap. I know we talked about it before, but let's recap on that real quick. Why was that one passed so quickly?
Didn't they already have it planned for it?
In
So
2019.
basically, once it
September,
happened,
right,
all they had to
this time
do
last
was
year.
just say,
Yep.
here you go, we planned for this.
And it was an emergency.
Hmm
It was an
Mhm.
emergency.
It's like someone knew it was coming, almost.
Sounds like it, don't it?
Yeah.
I mean,
It seems like somebody was briefed. You know, part of the Senate's role is to actually, the White House is there's a certain committee called the Intelligence Committee or
Right.
whatever. They actually bring in senators from that committee
Mhm.
and brief them on what they know
Right.
based on the intelligence.
Right.
So, since most of it is confidential,
Mhm.
they can't tell it to the public,
Right.
but they know something's going down the road, or they let the senators know how they're handling it.
Right.
Apparently, they knew. It feels like they knew, but they know to what degree the White House was handling it.
I mean, to have that type of foresight
Mhm.
for something like this. I mean, did anyone know that this pandemic would get to this point? I don't know if anybody knew that per se, and then why would you let it?
Yeah.
So that's kind of, you know what I'm saying? But the mere fact that it did happen And, regardless of what this particular president has said since then,
Yeah.
he didn't do what he could have done to prevent the deaths that happened to what, we almost 200,000 now?
Yeah.
In less than 12 months.
Yes.
That's quite a bit of people, and there's over 1 million, of course, that's come down with it in the United States, right?
Mm-hmm. And we know now that, he knew about it.
Yeah.
He knew how severe it was.
Yeah.
Based on a very popular book that came out this week.
Yeah. So, well, before we jump into that,
Before we go
what
there,
else
we
has
do that.
Congress done or not done that is impacting our lives today?
Well, there's police reform. The House passed the George Floyd Act. As if the viewers remember, the House Democrats put on their kente cloth and
Took the knee.
Yeah.
So that's one of the bills sitting on.
Do you have it pulled up where we can talk about what's in that bill? I remember there were some good things in there. There was no knock warrants was in there. There was a few things about where individuals can actually sue the police departments, because before they couldn't really. There's a lot of problems. They just kind of open the doors, and some of these things will become federal offenses. It was no chokeholds and no strangleholds,
Mhm.
which is in that bill as well. So there was a lot of good juicy stuff in this bill,
Mhm.
and it's still sitting on the Senate's desk right there, right?
Correct.
It had been brought up for debate.
Yeah.
You think the reason it hasn't come up with, or he hasn't done anything with it, because it probably would pass?
Yeah.
You think it's probable? But why would he not want that passed? What do you think? Any of you guys? Sonia, you thinking? I can see it.
Yeah, it doesn't fit with the agenda for their base.
Explain
Exactly.
that. Explain that.
Trump, part of his base are white supremacists.
Okay.
Let's just call it what it is.
Mhm.
That's part of his base. And to pass the George Floyd Justice in Policing Act is what it's called, would go against that particular demographic of people. In addition, the police also are not in favor of this act, and that's another large portion of his
base. The police unions
base.
are
Yes,
a
police
big
The police
part of his
unions
base.
have supported him, and they have actually, come out and endorsed him as a candidate. This act, if they passed it, that would lose that total base for them.
So his base, let's say his total base, right now is probably around 32-33% of the voting population.
Mm-hmm.
That's less than half.
Right.
Yeah.
And if that's all they have,
Right.
they ain't transfer, or what they call it, they ain't brought in no other folks from the other side.
Correct.
What are the chances of winning? But that's probably a different subject. So, okay, so that seems so crazy that here it is. I saw it. I saw the bill, and I saw the things, especially things that just kind of jump right out at you. I'm like, wow, why don't they have this? You think that every city, every state would want to have
Should
these
be
things.
doing this.
Should be doing this, for the people, and the people who drafted up this bill in the House was really, really in tune with what was going on. Why is it that the Republicans don't want it? Are they against it just because it was a Democratic decision, or is more people?
I think it would make everybody's life very uncomfortable in every state, and I think really on both sides of the aisle. But the Democrats are at least willing, to take that hickey, because it establishes a framework to prohibit racial profiling at the federal, state, and local levels. That is huge. And another thing that it does is it creates a national registry. So they've been really secretive a while, for all along about, how many people are suffering police brutality, what the racial profile is of the people that are suffering the police brutality. They're really, they're keeping the statistics pretty close to the vest. So they'd have to actually, put that information out there.
And qualified immunity as well.
Qualified
huge.
immunity is
Qualified
in, right?
immunity.
Yeah.
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 Basically, you can do whatever you want.
Right.
All you have to do is say you feared for your life or whatever as a police officer. And they can fear for their lives in ways that you and I cannot.
Right.
Yes.
And the other is, there's accountability and there's mandatory cameras.
Right.
Yeah.
That's included also. So, and we know a lot of the police departments, they don't agree with the cameras.
But you think they would, because it protects them as well. When certain things, certain people you're trying to lock up, they saying you did this, and they come up, show up hurt, or maimed or whatever it is, they're still alive.
Mhm.
You got the cameras that say, no, you didn't. No, I didn't. Just like the things we put on our dash right now. Someone tried to bump into us at a Walmart. This camera's going to record it. I would want it if I was a cop.
Mhm.
I want a camera there because I'm
you
going to
would
do
be
my
a good
job.
cop.
Right. If I was, yeah.
Exactly.
And
Yeah,
it helps
nothing
keep
to
you
hide.
accountable.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I guess if you're that few, and we just put out there for the record, not all cops are bad cops.
Right.
They're not.
Right.
Majority of them are good people.
Right.
They really want to do their job well. The problem I have is, the other part of it was that, you're accountable for those other officers. If you don't say anything, you can be prosecuted equally.
Yes.
That's correct.
Just like any one of us.
Yeah.
If I watch you kill somebody in front of me and I don't try to stop you, or, a man is raping a woman, I don't do anything, I can be held accountable.
Mhm.
And then if I say something like, wow, that would be considered inciting it.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It's basically admitting to a problem that they feel that doesn't exist. Like
Wow.
that's what that bill tells the American people. We do have a problem. This is all the problems there. If we pass it, we're admitting to
admitting
the
it.
problem.
Yeah.
Right.
So now what about the good cops? When I say the good ones, the ones that are for this bill.
Mm-hmm.
Now the unions are one thing, but the people, the actual people out there on the street doing the work, doing the hard, dangerous work that they do day in and day out. You would think that they would be speaking up.
They don't have the money.
They don't have the money to speak
They're
up.
not the ones running the unions.
Unions.
Unions-
Well, and it's
unions-
different too because there's that core union that everybody's a part of, but then there are the minority unions. There's an African American police union,
Right.
and they support this. They support this act.
Right.
They support this type of legislature, and they don't have the funding. Just like you said, to support them so that they can come out and say, yes, we do support this.
So what do activists do when they don't have the money to push an agenda? They go through the press.
You go to
Through the
the
press,
press.
yeah.
Mhm.
Just
Yeah.
handle it through the press.
You
Let the
go
press
underground.
decide.
Yeah.
That's exactly what you do.
And that's what you need to do. So, I understand police officers probably shouldn't be doing interviews. They probably sign something. You can't do that. There'll be a representative from the department in case there's a situation. I totally get it.
Well, and there's that blue code.
Yeah.
Okay,
The
and
thin
we talk
blue
about
line.
the thin blue line, is if I'm out and I'm with my partner and I'm African American and he's Anglo and we come up on a situation and
I'm just kidding. I'm just joking. I know what you mean.
and our lives are at stake,
Right.
and if I have done something to piss him off,
Yeah.
he's not going to back me up.
Right.
Yeah.
And so there is that code of ethics that they live by.
So it's no different from a gang.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Any fraternity, it's,
Yeah.
it's a
Mhm.
brotherhood.
It's
right,
and it's
exactly.
Well, sisterhood now
Yeah.
because women are police officers.
Mhm.
But despite all this inaction from Congress, they are doing one thing. They're doing something. At least the Senate is.
Something good.
Depends on how you look at it.
Okay.
They're confirming. You remember in Barack Obama's term where he couldn't pass judges because McConnell said lame duck session.
We're talking Supreme Court. justice.
Supreme Court
Right.
and other judges. He
Right.
couldn't
State
pass them.
judges and local judges.
Well, there were still vacancies.
Right.
Mhm.
And so in the last 3.5 years,
Mm-hmm.
Mitch McConnell has, with the help of the Heritage Foundation,
And the Federation, something that is part of his university, his alumni.
yeah,
His alum. Yeah. So yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
they've passed, they've confirmed 300 judges, whether they're qualified or not,
Right.
to appellate cases. And what that means is if somebody sues you that has an agenda that doesn't really interpret the law
Right.
as you're supposed to,
Right.
they can put their own feelings in it and throw it out. So all somebody else has to do is do something that's against you, and no one, even though you're going to sue, he's going to win because they're not going to use the law.
They know
to
what
interpret.
judge it's gonna be. Your case is gonna go up against.
Yes,
So these are federal, not state Supreme Court. These are federal.
federal,
Which means they have
judges.
no term limits.
Correct.
Yes, lifetime appointees.
And I
And they're
feel-
young.
Yeah,
They're in their
I think
20s.
that either they're going to become much more smarter, which they should anyway,
Yeah.
or they're going to become more corrupt. I think a lot of people won't make
Oh,
it. They
and
So
can
what
be
was the
impeached.
good thing you said that they were doing? Or
Well,
Oh, yeah.
it depends on how you sitting with it. Like for me, I'm scared. But if I support, say, abortion rights
Mhm.
or something that goes with my own agenda, and
Mhm.
if they follow that agenda, then I feel that it's got my back.
Mhm.
It's not to say it's wrong the way to do it because basically people are being pointed like clerks,
Right.
don't even have, maybe not even lawyers,
Mhm.
Right.
you know, because apparently if you can be a judge, whatever occupation you have.
Yeah, you don't.
Right.
There's not a requirement that you have a law background.
Yeah, all you need is
Really?
all
Yeah,
you need
there's no
is
You have to be appointed.
yeah, all you need is majority confirmation from the Senate.
You or I.
We're gonna sorry, I'm kidding. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
yeah. We have the impression that if you have a lawful background,
Mhm.
you know that qualifies you in there. The what's it called? The Lawyers Association, we call it KMA. They're the ones who sort of refer, and the old rules in the Senate. If you had somebody, you know, applying for a position in that Senate, in that judgeship, in that district, and if it's a senator in that Senate seat, they had the first say to say, no, we don't want you
Right.
before you even come to the whole Senate. So, you know, say, you know, you came in here and saying, I want a judgeship, and they're going to appoint you, then Ted Cruz first has to say, no. No, before it gets to everybody else.
Right.
That's the rules have been thrown out now.
Wow. You just made me think of something. That Trump came out last week when he
Yes.
made his announcement of his list
Yes,
of probable appointees.
yes,
You know, and Ted Cruz is on there.
yes.
Right.
Doesn't that
And
explain a lot?
Mhm.
Just his about face from what he did
vote your conscience.
at the RNC. Yeah, vote your
Right,
conscience
right.
to, I want to be a judge.
Yeah.
Now,
Now-
I heard
now
Mitch
he does-
McConnell
he
say
did-
he was going to appoint himself one time. He did say that. I heard him say that. I don't know if a senator can.
Did he say it in a real slow way?
Or I never heard him talk fast. So I guess he was telling the truth because he talks slow.
Yeah. So
That's crazy.
to add in what Trump said, Trump is basically telling everybody this is about the Supreme Court because he knows there's going to potentially be 3 vacancies
Right.
for the next 4 years.
So based on what McConnell said during the end of Obama's presidency,
Mhm.
right? Let's say after November 3rd,
Mm-hmm.
there's a vacancy.
Yeah.
Do you think they're not going to confirm another guy?
No, they
Oh,
will. They,
well, they
will.
will.
They
He's
will.
McConnell has already said, yeah, I will.
Yeah. To his,
Totally. He was
to his
asked. He's,
people.
he laughed
Yeah.
when he was asked.
Oh, yeah.
Wow. So let me ask you guys this before we move on to the next segment. This is really a puzzling question for
Yeah.
me. What can Congress do to prevent these type of things from happening? One, the type of shenanigans we know has been happening in this administration for almost 4 years. And then what else they can do to help set up rules within Congress and the Senate so these things don't happen again with certain types of leadership, to prevent leadership from doing the things that they're doing now. Or can they?
They're not going to be able to do anything until
There's a majority one
until
side.
there's a majority that's one-sided that has a conscience
Yeah.
that will fix this.
Because anything the bills have to be passed by
Right.
2/3 of the Senate.
Well,
Right.
60.
60. Well,
60. So, but that was something that's on,
60.
and it's funny because that's a supermajority,
Mhm.
which was set up. I forgot when it was. Was it during the Bush administration? I can't remember.
It was before then.
Before that?
Yeah, because it was the filibuster.
That's right.
Filibuster.
But it's only for certain situations.
Mhm.
Right.
Other situations, just 51.
Correct.
Yeah, yeah. You
Like
can,
this bill.
Yeah, you can appoint cabinet
Well, no,
members with
that's not
just a simple majority, judges
Right.
simple majority,
Right.
with basically more than 50 people.
How do you guys feel about that, though? Do you feel that maybe it should go back to the majority?
Simple majority?
Mhm.
No.
No?
I personally feel that even though there's dysfunction going on right now,
Right.
I still have hope that people will vote, enough people that will actually want to work
Yeah.
Okay.
in the Senate, opposed to
I kind of also think too that, if we do get Trump out of here, I think that on both sides of the aisle, on both sides of the aisle, there are enough people that do not want a repeat of Trump,
Yep.
that they will start putting things in place. And part of the reason why I can't help but think that or hope that is with all of the stuff that came out from, the interviews this week,
Right.
his followers are behind him,
Right.
but I really haven't heard that many elected officials
Mm.
coming out in his
Right.
defense.
Right.
So, that kind of tells me, maybe they do have a little bit of a conscience. Like if we can get him out of office and he's enough removed.
See, I think it's
That
worse.
is-
I think they're just tired. I think they're just tired.
Yeah, but when you're tired, you don't lay down. You know what I'm saying? You don't. You speak out and you do things to try to change it. You know, only person I've actually heard speak really big in Trump's behalf was McConnell. But even that language started changing over the past couple of
Lindsey
months.
Graham and Lindsey Graham.
Lindsey.
Yeah.
Right,
Lindsey
right.
Graham.
I do declare.
But Lindsay's the one that got him into the interviews.
Yes.
So.
Right, that's right.
Yeah.
He is.
But there was something that happened this week that was just putting my attention in the House. And Sonia got it.
I did.
Okay.
There was a committee meeting this week in the House, and the committee that actually met, excuse me, was the committee for the Office of Minority and Women in Inclusion.
Interesting.
Right.
Okay.
And so they met this week, and they actually had a hearing. And in the hearing, the purpose of it was to track diversity and inclusion performance in all of the respective agencies within the government. And they were primarily interested in financial regulations. What they're hearing, what they discovered was that there's a lack of diversity in the boards and in the leadership, and that also on the advisory committees. So what that means is that the major organizations that are determining how funding is relegated to, you know, the average homeowner, those people who are getting loans, that those people who are making those decisions lack diversity in those particular, excuse me, in those different organizations. And so that, you know, excuse me, so now they are talking about coming up with ways to correct that, to have more representation in those boards for those federal level agencies.
Interesting. Interesting.
Yes.
Okay. So, as we move on, right?
Yes.
I want you to bring us into the next segment.
Yes. The next segment is a special segment called Facts and Feelings.
Dun, dun, dun,
Brought to you by Nichelle and Sonia.
All right, let's just jump in here. And this one is totally off the subject, but so we're coming up on our census deadline. And so I filled my census out and turned it in. Yeah, Aya just kept reminding me, and finally I was like, fine, I'll do it. I'll get it done. And it only took 10 minutes, but I was just like, you know, it's just like 10 minutes. I'm not gonna get that. I know it's important, yada yada yada.
But why is it important?
Well, you know, they say.
Okay.
They say that, you know, filling out the census, you know, it lets the government know how many people are in your neighborhood. It gives them demographic information, you know, all that good stuff. It gives you, you know, better representation. You get more funds.
So there are benefits to this.
Well, yeah. And I'm fine with it.
It's not just an extra piece of paper the government wants.
Exactly. I'm fine with it.
Okay.
But the thing is like, yeah, it got me thinking about like, you know, other people that aren't wanting to fill it out, because you know, they're still like tapping everybody's doors, and they still got people going out trying to get people to, you know, fill out the census, and I can totally understand like why you might want to fall under the radar. I mean, I don't have anything to hide, but you know, there are people out there, you know, that, you know, they might be undocumented. You know, there could be, you know, ex-cons out there. There could just be people that don't want the government in their business, and that's. You know, that's my, you know, feeling about it. It's like, you know, how is there a way that you can, like, I don't know, maybe let people know that it's good? Because at this point in time, I kind of feel like the government's in my business anyway. And again, I don't have anything to hide. I don't care. Yeah. But I know that my phone listens to me. I mean, I'm not just being paranoid here, but I just look at the, you know, advertisements that pop up on my phone, and so I know if I'm sending the government information, my name is on the envelope, so it's not like I'm. You know, they say that it's anonymous, but my name is on the envelope. They're sending it to my house. I fill it out. They're going to know it's me. Kind of like voting by mail. My name is on the envelope. I'm filling out the vote. Do they really not know how I'm voting? I don't know.
So I think we should spend a couple minutes, if you guys, just for, go ahead.
Can I give the facts?
Yes, I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry.
I should be looking this way.
Yes, ma'am. The facts.
Go with the facts.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, so numbers matter. Numbers matter. Let's start with that.
Okay.
That numbers matter. What the census does is it gives government and businesses an accurate count so that they can meet the needs of the people.
Mm-hmm.
Plain and simple. What it does is it funds things like transportation, it funds schools, hospitals, it provides the numbers for funding for infrastructure.
Okay, so are they still going to do that though, even if, it's an undocumented person?
They will, because even if the person is undocumented, they still know that person is still driving. That person is still going to be tearing up the road. That person still might have medical needs. That person may still need police to respond to their house. It doesn't matter whether they're documented or undocumented. If they are present in this country, then there are services that are still guaranteed to them regardless of their status.
But I can totally understand why they would say, I'm not filling this out. Because you know what? You might fix my road so that the popo can be there waiting for me when I get in my car. So
I get that too. But one of the biggest things that we really need to look at is when they look at the numbers from the census, there are 435 seats.
Yes.
For Congress.
And it's based on the
House.
state's population.
And it's based on the population of each state.
Mhm.
Those 435 seats are allocated based on a percentage of the people.
Mm-hmm.
So, doesn't matter if, you've got documented or undocumented people, you've got a population of people that have to be represented by the company. And that's by the country. And that is how they allocate that representation. So if you don't fill out your census, then that's one less person that you get to count towards that 435 person count. And if you don't fill it out, and then your neighbor doesn't fill it out, and then this person over here doesn't fill it out, and everybody has this attitude about, I'm not going to fill it out because I don't want the government in my business, well then there goes your representation.
And let me add on that, may I?
You may.
This is our tax money at work. This money is going to get spent, regardless. Why not get that money back into stuff you need in your own house, in your own town?
But so if we get this extra representation, and say they are people that aren't able to vote, they're counted, but they're not able to vote.
Correct.
And then people that really don't particularly care to help them end up representing them, then where's that money go?
Well, the money still goes to your states and to your localities.
Localities.
Right.
So it's still going to be in that area.
Exactly.
Hopefully, if you're, a lot of undocumented people have generations
Right.
still living in that area.
Right.
So it's still going to affect you on the services that come to your way.
Correct.
So for something that comes every 10 years and all you need, now they've even made it easier to fill it out, where you can just put up your phone, go to
Right.
2020census.gov, take 5 minutes, so you don't have to worry about that census taker coming to your door like a
your
Jehovah's
house.
Witness, possibly getting COVID,
Wow.
trying to do his job.
The statements that are made on this show is not necessarily a reflection of KMWi-Media. Just kidding. Sorry, go ahead. You're good. You're good.
Now, the funny thing about the census for this year is they are anticipating a hike in the number, in an increase in the population for both the southern and the western states.
Yeah, because of migration.
Because of migration, and if you notice too, with redistricting,
Yes.
that is exactly where they concentrated the redistricting.
Right.
Illegally
Right.
and
Yes.
to draw those maps.
So they're using it as a
To
tool
gerrymander.
against. Well, it
Yes.
hurts.
Yes, it's a tool, and it's mostly done by the state legislatures.
Right.
Like,
And we know that both Republican and Democrats have taken advantage of that.
That's
Correct.
More
correct.
Republicans,
That's correct.
Gerrymandering,
Yeah,
whatever it is. they've
3 states: Maryland, Democratic, Wisconsin,
Right.
and Texas.
Right.
Right. Yeah, Texas is one of the biggest ones.
Yes,
Exactly.
and which goes back into voting, but we'll talk about that later.
We're going to talk about that one later. Well, we're coming up on that one. But I want to go back, because you mentioned migration.
Yes.
Let's go back to a little bit of history. Because you remember the Great Migration. Now, I guess my question is...
Which one?
Well, the great one in the United States was when,
Okay.
Southern blacks moved to the north.
Okay.
But that's what I'm talking about. Do you know when they started taking census in the United States? Do we have that information? Okay, see, our researchers are checking out.
No, but as they're looking it up, consistently the numbers,
Sorry.
decade to decade, of every census, we've been averaging between 20 and 13% of the actual of Black Americans of the actual population.
I have an answer. July 1st, 1902.
Okay, 1902. So it's been about a century. Well, it's been a little over a century now.
Yeah.
Interesting. I'm sorry. Finish your statement.
No,
August
I'm
2nd,
saying-
1790
What?
was the first census in the United States.
Yeah, we were
Yeah.
free then.
Just-
Oh, so the Census Bureau was actually founded in 1902.
Yeah,
So there's a
when the
bureau.
bureau was
It
founded.
became a government.
Interesting.
Yes.
1790.
And that makes sense. I'm sorry. Finish your statement.
No, just when we started, like after the Census Bureau, it was between, as we were counted as one
Right.
person.
And then by
As opposed to 3/5.
3/5. Yeah.
you said 1790,
1790.
and we
Yes.
weren't even allowed to vote then.
No, we were
No.
not.
Interesting.
So
They
slaves
hadn't
were
even
slaves were
decided
counted.
we were 3/5 of a person.
Yeah,
at that
slaves
time.
were counted.
It's
We
property.
were. It's
Yes,
property.
but
It's property.
yes.
Which was
But
a
it was
prop-
part of the representation of the southern states because the Southerners wanted to make sure that they had representation.
Correct.
So
Yes.
they used it,
They-
even though they didn't see us. They didn't see us as citizens.
We counted as 3/5 of a person.
Yeah. And so
Wow.
remember the was it the 14th or the 15th Amendment?
That said that
That
we
we're now with one person.
oh yeah, when
Yeah.
we were born citizens,
Yes.
nationalized citizens.
Yes,
Right.
and that's how Grant wanted us to be Republicans early in the day.
Interesting.
That's also because of the census.
So let's go there real quick.
Yes.
Let's go there. So, because I had a conversation yesterday talking about blacks in politics,
The
and how
blacks.
they chose
Okay, go ahead.
black people,
Okay.
African Americans,
All right.
how they chose their parties in elections. Okay, so we know that it was the Republican Party that freed the slaves.
Mhm.
It was the Democratic Party in the South that encapsulated us, that kept us in slavery, right?
Mhm.
So at what point, I think you actually told me exactly when this party, the Republican Party, changed, which I'm like, dang, that was it, because I'm trying to figure out when it was. I was thinking it was around the McCarthy era.
LBJ.
It was LBJ.
LBJ
It
and
sure
Civil
was.
Rights Act.
So that was it.
That's what pissed off the Democrats.
People migrated,
The
right?
Dixiecrats.
The Dixiecrats.
Yeah.
That was 65, right?
65 when the bill was passed.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah,
So,
and the
yeah.
thing about it is that the Republicans were actually planning on doing that, but LBJ beat him to the punch because he knew it would get him the Negro vote. So that was his
It was time to.
plan.
It was really, really
it was
time.
time to, but LBJ did it. He did it for his own gain.
Right.
He knew that it would get the vote.
And I think that at some point we should have a show focusing on politics in the 60s, to the 60s up to date.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of stuff that happened then that is starting to happen here now.
Mhm.
Well, there are so many people now too that keep, trying to get blacks to vote Republican, saying, well,
Right.
Lincoln's the one that freed you. Well,
Right.
guess what? Lincoln never did think that black folks were equal, that we deserved to vote, that we deserved to, live, among whites. In fact, he actually, got a group of black abolitionists together and told them, y'all black folks, y'all are like the bane of our existence here at the U.S. We would like to free you and get you out of the country.
I think Lincoln had a conscience, though.
He did.
Yeah.
I think he knew the slavery was wrong.
He knew it was wrong,
Yeah.
but he also knew that black folks were just like a thorn in his side. He didn't want to
Well,
see
yeah, he didn't want to deal with the issue.
Right.
So it's like look at Kennedy. Kennedy
Mhm.
wanted civil rights,
Yeah.
but he didn't want to deal with it because
Right.
it was just too. It took him
He
away
wanted
from
to
the
stay in
Vietnam
office.
stuff that was going on.
But we
Yeah.
have to look at the Republican Party
Yeah.
of Lincoln.
Mhm.
It had a whole different platform. I mean, they
Mhm.
called themselves Republicans, but they were not like the current Republicans. They were not conservatives.
No, they weren't
They were not
conservative.
conservatives
Well,
at
you know
all.
something, but the party was
So-
split.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
They had the conservative group within the Republican Party, and then you
Correct.
had the radicals, which was I forgot the senator's name. He had the funny looking hair, but yeah, from Ohio, I think, or Pennsylvania, I forgot. But yeah, the party was completely split in half.
Mhm.
Right.
And then Lincoln had to fight with both,
Right.
and then
Yeah.
those other Democrats that didn't succeed
Right.
to the Confederate Party.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? So they stayed in Washington, they stayed part of the Union, but they were so he was fighting against a lot.
He was.
Even though the Congress wasn't as big then, but it didn't matter how many people it was still the same majority votes that he needed to get certain things passed. We're gonna go to the history lesson, which I probably shouldn't, because that's gonna be a 2-hour show. But I think it's important for our viewers and everybody else who's watching, because I think that one of the purposes of this show is to enlighten people, because we can look at the way current things are.
Right.
But I think if people can get a broader picture and understand how things come to be,
Mm-hmm.
then that'll help their perspective. Maybe they can take pride in this democratic process.
And it wasn't a two-party system either.
No.
Yeah.
The Whigs.
Yeah, the Whigs.
The
were
Whigs.
part
Well, they
of
were
it.
Democrats.
Democrats.
Right.
They were Democrats,
Mhm.
and they're
Right.
Republicans, but the
Right.
Republican Party was split.
Correct.
You know, well, they had different ideologies within the
Absolutely.
same.
Well,
Republican
just say
Party.
liberal and conservative
Right.
ideologies.
Right.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Pretty much. Yeah, but Lincoln, he was trying to bridge that gap. He was really trying to bridge that gap. And I guess what I liked about what Lincoln did, Lincoln had the guts to go against a lot of his administration that was against it. I mean, look at his own vice president,
Mm-hmm.
who was a Tennessee Southern sympathizer. Of course, when he died, of course, he tried to jump in and give all these Southern states rights,
Right.
even though they were coming back into the Union.
Mm-hmm.
So, where it's a whole history lesson that we probably don't need to go into.
Yeah,
And
this-
did all the
yeah.
reconstruction.
Yeah,
Man.
reconstruction's a whole different.
Yeah.
Okay.
So stay tuned for future
yes,
episodes
yes, it's
dealing
coming.
with this. Yes.
It's coming.
Post-election.
Yes.
So I guess we can segue into the one thing we're going to talk about every week, which is voting. Voting.
Yes.
We need to vote. We're
We
what,
have
seven,
to.
7 weeks away? About 7
It's,
weeks, isn't it?
Little
yeah,
less, isn't it?
this a little over 50 days, 51,
50
51
something
days.
Yeah.
And if you vote early, it's early than that.
Yeah, but the actual official day.
Yes.
So, let me ask you guys again, because times have changed since we last had this conversation. I asked you guys this question. Who and why do you think that person is going to win the election?
Why are you looking at me first?
Because you're closer.
I want Biden to win. I am still nervous. You're nervous. I'm nervous.
Okay.
I don't know who's going to vote and who's not, and how they're going to vote.
Okay.
I know I'm going to vote.
Well, yeah, I know you are. Everybody in this room is going to vote. I'm going to push some people to vote. Sonia?
Are we gonna talk about Bob Woodward's book?
You know something? I'm glad you told me. As you notice, I have any notes in front of me, so I don't know exactly. Yes! Let's get into Bob. Let's get to the voting thing. Let's come back.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so who do I
We're
get
going to get there. We're going to get there.
Yeah,
So when we talk about
It's
Bob
too
Woodward's
much.
book,
Look,
we're-
it's just too much.
this will reinforce the question
Yes.
of who do you think should win in the presidency.
There it is. Perfect
Absolutely.
segue.
Okay, so I think that Biden will win,
Mhm.
and I think that Bob Woodward's book will have a lot to do with it.
You think so?
I do. I think that the things that were stated that Trump said about the military, I think that that is a nail in the coffin.
Right.
I think that in addition to that, the things that he talked about in terms of knowing that COVID was as deadly as it was when he knew that it was,
Right.
I think that that's another nail in the coffin.
Okay.
And so I think, go ahead.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry to interrupt you. Let's give a little quick backstory on Bob Woodward, how he got to talk to Trump.
Okay, so we know that Lindsey Graham suggested another senator.
Right.
Where's Lindsey from?
South
South
Carolina.
Carolina.
South Carolina.
I do.
I do
Right.
declare. So, Lady G
Yes.
suggested that Twitlet have an interview with Bob
Who is
Woodward,
Trump.
Mhm.
who is Trump. Now, Bob Woodward conducted 18 individual interviews with Trump, and we've kind of figured out that they all started sometime last year all the way until about June of this year.
Hold up.
Okay.
Bob Woodward. Who is he now?
Bob Woodward is the famous reporter.
Tell me
who-
his pedigree,
Who
please.
uncovered the Watergate scandal.
Oh, that Bob Woodward.
That Bob Woodward,
He's still around.
who worked for
Still
the
around.
Washington Post.
Well, I declare.
He's still
I
around.
declare. So, and I'm going to say this and look at the camera. Why in the hell would you give an interview to Bob Woodward of all people? Okay. So now that I've said that, so that's who Bob Woodward is.
Mhm.
And so he held 18 individual interviews and taped each interview.
Oh,
Which
wow.
Trump was aware.
Which Trump
he was being taped.
He was aware that he was being taped. Exactly. Now, there has been a lot of pushback against Bob Woodward saying if he had this information, why did he not disclose it? Well, one of the things that Bob Woodward said was at the time that he talked to Trump about COVID, we did not know what we know now
Right.
about COVID.
Right.
And Trump lies all the time anyway, so he needed time to verify, right?
And
Yes.
he needed time to verify, but not only did he need time to verify,
Playing devil's
he
advocate.
thought that Twitlet was just mouthing off.
Yeah.
And he did not believe that the severity of what he was describing, that was actual and factual.
Because he lies all the time.
But he said that he knew it was. In that interview, he actually said, I knew how severe it was, but I didn't want to panic the people.
That is
No,
correct.
that's his, yeah.
That-
But Trump
that's what
lies
Trump
all the
said.
time.
That is correct. And so now in hindsight,
Right.
it looks like, well, Bob Woodward should have disclosed that information to us. And no, not until he could have verified, like any
As a
good reporter,
journalist.
as a journalist, verifies facts and
Yes.
information before you disclose it.
So, I got a
Of course,
question.
the book is going to be a bestseller. So
Well, it's going to be a bestseller because of Bob Woodward. It's the
Right.
second book within, I think, the past year and a half. The
Right.
second book.
Yes.
So, Sonia, I got to
Yes.
ask you this question because
Ask
it
me
seemed
this
like I
question.
was in a very controversial moment
Okay.
in the same circumstance, probably around the same time, about 24 hours ago. There's a young lady who I was hosting the show last night. She sat there
Okay.
and we had a little debate.
Okay.
That
So-
show was truly outspoken, no alternative facts. Check it in every Saturday.
Thank you for the plug. That's very good. So she sat there, and we can go into that, but I'm going to be a little controversial. I'm going to debate
Okay.
you on this
Let's
because
go.
let me
Okay,
ask you
let's
this.
go.
See, she ready. She got
Let's
gloves
go.
on her. Got
That's
gloves
right.
on.
Let's go.
So you're saying, well, let me ask you, you actually feel that book is going to tip the scale? Where
I
it's
do.
going to convert people who were supporting Trump to change their minds?
No, I do not.
Okay.
I think that his basis.
I think they're solid.
It's his base.
Mhm.
And
What?
they're only maybe 32%
Right. Of the voting population.
of the voting population.
Right.
There is probably anywhere between 8 and 15% that was kind of,
On the fence?
teetering on the fence. I think this book just knocked them over.
See, I don't see it as a smoking gun like
Ooh, I
the
do.
emails last year, 2 weeks before the election
Mhm.
for Hillary.
but
That
those
was-
people didn't like Hillary anyway.
That is correct.
But had that thing that come out, Hillary would have won that. I think she'd have won those states that Wisconsin, those.
I think
battlegrounds.
there were a lot of
lies.
people that just didn't vote because they assumed she was going to win too. I think we were very.
That was the other part.
It's the lies about
Complacency.
COVID.
Yeah.
The lies about COVID. 200,000 people. Now, if Biden is smart,
Mhm.
he will, his advertising will push that.
And
He'll
push
take those
Republicans
tapes.
that knew somebody who died.
That's-
Republicans that lost a family member. Like that woman who said the only thing he did wrong was trust Trump.
Right.
Correct. And not only that, the black Republican that they didn't even do any kind of recognition for.
Herman Cain.
Herman
Okay.
Cain.
Yes.
Herman
it says
Cain.
999.
Right.
999.
Right. Exactly.
So I'm gonna disagree
Okay.
because, like you said, I really believe that Republican voters are there. Those people who are on the fence, I think they're still on the fence. I don't think this is going to do it. I think that one, because we're too far from the election right now.
Mhm.
We're several weeks away, a little less than 2 months.
I think as those COVID numbers continue to climb.
The COVID numbers, which is going to be a deciding factor, especially if it hits people right at home.
That
But
is
I think
correct,
there's still so many people that do not want to wear the mask.
absolutely.
There are so many people still
I
out
don't
there
wanna
that
wear
don't.
it.
There were still rallies. He was having rallies
Rallies,
still
yeah.
with people without masks.
And that's how you do your political ads.
Right.
You put that audio
Trump's
underneath.
world, everybody without masks.
Right.
In Biden's
And then-
world, everybody's following instructions.
But no, it's him. You know how detrimental this is, and
Mhm.
yet you still put people at risk.
Yes.
Yeah.
The people who cover him, like there's pool people and there's cameras.
Right.
Those people said, we're not coming to your events.
Right.
Because it's deadly.
Right.
Like they rolled them back just this weekend. We're not going to these events.
Mhm.
Right.
We'll have people around writing notes, but we're not going to show no cameras. We're not going to risk our people.
Who's the one person who was a Trump supporter since he's been in office, didn't even show up at the convention?
McConnell.
McConnell.
He was smart. Even though he's on vacation.
Well, he's been
he's on
distancing
recess.
too.
Well, yeah, but he's still supporting a lot of his agendas.
Well,
I think it's going to benefit him.
He wasn't a day one. He was like, okay, he's a president. I got to get this shit done.
Look, first of all, this guy got his wife working on the Trump
Mhm.
administration. There was talk
Right.
long
Yeah,
before he
Department
took
of
office.
Yes,
Transportation.
yeah.
Correct.
Like, I got you, man.
True.
I got you.
Mhm.
Now, information came out about Fox News,
hmm
right? I don't know if you guys have heard this story or not, Why do you guys feel, and you guys probably know the answer to this, so this might be old news to me. Why do you feel that Fox was supporting Trump so much?
Well, I know, you mean from the very beginning?
Yeah.
Well, I know Trump was trying to start his own network.
Well, he's been a contributor on Fox well before he signed them documents to run.
Okay. Michelle, you have an idea? You guys are close. No idea? Okay. And they're a business.
Mm-hmm.
Fox News is a business, right?
Mm-hmm.
Have more viewers than CNN and MSNBC during
Combined.
peak hours.
It's entertainment.
It's
Right.
entertainment, right?
Right.
But they're still a business. They're about making money.
Right.
They signed a contract with Trump and said, you give us exclusivity on a lot of interviews, and we will support you 100%. That was a business deal. These people don't care about Trump. All they care about the ratings. And Trump, we know Trump is popular. People want to hear Trump. And if they're going to, I don't know how much money, I'm sure there's a lot of money exchanged, you know what I mean, to do these interviews. But yeah, so those times when some of those commentators went against him, and he lashed out hard, oh, Trump, because but it's funny because, the one person who we know recently started pulling away from him, well, kind of going against the grain a little bit, was Chris Wallace.
Right.
In some of those interviews, and he was really kind of attacking him on a couple of those interviews, like, dude, why, what do you mean? So Chris Wallace said, well, I'm not a part of this.
Right.
I'm part of the network, but I have my own show. This is his own independent show on that network.
Right.
Well, so he's been with them so long, so he earned the right pretty much. But then you got, what's the other guy that's on the show? I forgot his name.
Oh, I know who you're talking about.
Yeah.
Well, just to
yes.
Fox News got two wings: the news side and the
And the
entertainment
entertainment
side.
Right.
The
Chris
entertainment,
Wallace is news.
yeah.
Right.
There was an old guy, another guy, skinny. He left.
The one that left because of sex scandal or something?
No. He
Oh.
just left because
Oh,
he was
okay.
tired of fact checking Trump.
Right. Oh, okay.
It was during the
Yeah.
daytime. Yeah. So the entertainment side, which is currently Tucker Carlson,
Right. Tucker
Sean
Carlson.
Hannity, and
And Sean Hannity
Laura
actually
Ingraham.
was a supporter of his as well.
Yeah.
Right.
So
Still is.
those are running the roost right now, opposed to the actual truth of the news.
Right.
And who was that woman? That's that woman.
Laura Ingraham.
Yeah. Oh, gee.
And so they're married to them, even though Trump has been flirting with OANN or whatever that libertarian network is.
Yeah.
But anyway, bringing it back to other stuff that Trump said in that interview.
Mhm.
I mean, one of the stuff that was out in the public was systemic racism.
Right.
They'll tell you the timing of his interviews. It was after George Floyd.
Right.
Right.
He said on camp tape,
Right.
says he believes in systemic racism.
He believes that it exists, and he says it is
It's
what it is.
unfortunate.
Yes.
He said it's unfortunate, and then when Woodward said, well, how do you feel, that you're benefiting from that? He's
White
like,
privilege.
Oh, yeah, white privilege. He's like, oh, well, you drank the Kool-Aid, obviously.
Wow.
So, yeah, he
Wow.
admitted that.
Yeah.
That it
But how does that
exists.
make us feel? I mean, since you're the fielder here, how does it make you feel to hear that?
It doesn't surprise me. I know that he knew. And the thing is a lot of people know that systemic racism exists. I mean, it's the system that allows police officers to not be charged when they, kill or maim black
Right.
men or people of color.
Mhm.
It's the system. It's not just a few bad cops. It's the system that allows these things to happen. But it all comes down to economics. It
That's
doesn't
it,
matter
yeah.
whether or not you're racist.
Doesn't matter.
It's all
Yeah.
about the money.
It's about the
And,
money.
that was, I majored in sociology, and then there was one day in class when the teacher said, if everybody woke up and nobody was racist the next day, would anything change? And all of us were like, yeah, everything would change. There was one guy in the class, he's like, not a damn thing would change.
Yeah.
And she said, you're absolutely, he's the right one, because it's all about the money.
Yeah.
And as long as you divide, you can conquer.
Yes. And
Yes,
you asked us a question before the show started.
I think.
Was Trump? Yes.
Was he a racist or an elitist?
Elitist. He's a politician now.
And that's
my answer.
interesting because I
He's
still
a
don't see him.
politician
I
now.
still don't see him as a politician.
That interview proved to me he was a politician, because what you say behind closed doors is what you actually believe in, opposed to what you say to the people who you feel that's going to vote for you.
Yeah, but you know something? I don't think Trump thinks that deeply about it. He thinks about it on the surface, but not that deeply. He's not. He is. I mean, there are some people, career politicians. It's
Yeah.
in their blood.
I think he's a
It's in their nature.
businessman.
He's a businessman.
He's a
man
con
that
artist.
happens to be a narcissist.
Well, he's looking at how it's going to line his coffers. Everything is all
Exactly.
about. It's
so,
not.
so in that essence, you can think it's politics. But if you're a businessman, your job is to go out and get revenue, right?
He's an ad man.
Yeah.
There it is. That's a good point.
Yeah.
He's an
Ad
Marketing.
ad man.
He's an ad man. You're right.
Yeah.
That's exactly what he is.
Yeah, he's
You know,
marketing
he
the
has a
product.
brand.
He's the
He's
product.
one hell of a marketer too.
Yeah.
The man is a genius when it comes to advertising
Oh,
and to
oh,
branding.
I'm understanding you. I
He
wouldn't use
is.
that word when it comes
He-
to.
he-
They just
he
don't line
is.
up to me.
I mean,
branding.
Trump and
He
genius
really is.
doesn't line up. But I
He
get
really
it. I
is
get it.
in branding. He really is. He really
It's
is.
innate.
And it's innate, is what it is.
You know,
It's something
he's-
that he has been taught, and it was something that he was taught from
Yeah.
his father
It's
and
ingrained.
his grandfather, and it is a part of
I don't
him.
think they had that gift.
He.
Oh,
I don't think they
the
did.
grandfather did.
You think the grandfather?
You
did?
think so?
Yes. Oh,
Okay,
yes.
because his father's a blue collar guy that had a vision, and he turned something into $1 million enterprise, right?
Right.
And he passed it on to his son, who's watching all of this,
Correct.
right? He developed his own personality because of some of the privilege that he had, right? And then he weren't held accountable as a child. We saw that in his niece's book that she wrote a couple months back.
Right.
So, and then her being the psychologist that she is, clinical psychologist, she knows about these personality types. So, it's not that I think, and then him living in New York.
Okay.
Something
Okay.
about living in New York just
Okay.
transforms you.
All right. He has
Not in a negative way.
he has
So-
he has natural gifts on what he's taught
Or
on,
natural abilities.
natural abilities. But as he was developing his gifts, look at the people. When you look at how he behaves
Right.
and how he presents himself.
Right.
He was hanging out with boxer promoters, Don
Correct.
King,
Don
Mhm.
King.
who still supports him.
Yeah.
Crazy as
Yeah, but it's about this.
Wait a minute. Oh yeah. Hold on. More. The WWE, Vince McMahon.
Yeah.
They are all his
They
rallies
are
look like
promoters.
Well,
yeah,
why
promoters.
wouldn't you?
Degree.
Why wouldn't you? Trump owns hotels. You want to have your events at a hotel. You
Yeah.
don't work, so of course you want to support him.
But
On paper.
But I'm not saying support. I'm
Oh.
trying to, the way they present boxer promoters, how they present. I mean, that's how he builds things.
Right.
The way he does his rallies is like a WWE event,
It is.
Mhm.
and then rappers,
Right.
braggadocious,
Okay. So
telling more than what you actually have.
I think that I want to bring up something that Patricia brought up on the show yesterday. 50 Cent.
Mm.
Have you guys heard that story?
Mm-mm.
No.
Well, 50 Cent was offered by Trump $500,000 a little while back, right?
Not too long ago.
Not too long ago.
Yeah.
50 Cent said, hell no, no way.
Mm-hmm.
Recently, he came back and offered him $1 million to stand in his rally
Mm-hmm. And
and
endorse.
endorse him,
Mhm.
right? And he still said, hell no, no way.
Mm-hmm.
So he's not stupid, but he was able to get Kanye. So as much money as Kanye has, he took that money.
He did.
Yeah.
He took that money.
Oh, absolutely.
And then they even asked him, put him up there. They knew he couldn't win,
Mm-hmm.
but they felt he can be a distraction from Democratic voters that might like Kanye and uncertain about Biden.
Right.
So, I mean, it was just the trickery. I mean, to me, that's not even a smart move to use Kanye. You could have tried to get Jay-Z or somebody. You know,
It's his team.
Mm.
It's
Well,
his
yeah,
team.
it's the people on his
It's the
team.
campaign.
Yeah.
They're trying every way to lie, cheat, and steal.
including
Right.
still ballots from the post office and hide them. And suppress
Yes, they've taken up another level where they've
Sending
actually mailed us
misinformation.
information.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess we're about to close out. So did we talk enough about the importance of voting this year?
No, I feel like
No.
there's a lot of things we can talk about right now.
Yes, sir. Lead the way.
Okay. Since we were talking about the main subject of Congress.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So, the Congress, their purpose is to appoint judges,
Mhm.
confirm the cabinet members, whoever Trump puts in office. They also decide if if the president is impeached, they decide if he stays or goes. They also have other roles in committees when they finish out the bills.
Right.
That's the Senate side.
Right.
The House, they do oversight.
Mm-hmm.
They oversight what the president does. They also create bills,
Mm-hmm.
and they represent you.
Mm-hmm.
you have to look internally yourself, for you and your family. How do you want the person in your area to represent you?
Right.
And that's essentially how voting works. If you vote for people in the House and the Senate, you have to look at what are your values and how are you going to live your life in the next 2 or 6 years. 6 years for the Senate, 2 years for the House, and say, does this person represent everything that I stand for?
Right.
Everywhere I live, is my place safe? If I don't put my say in this, then they decide what happens to me.
Okay. So it's important to know who your candidates are before you go out and vote.
Yes.
Right? You don't necessarily have to vote straight down ballot,
No.
but let's do some research. And we have early voting starts October 5th. In most states, about 40 states now, right?
Well, no, that's a little long. They usually do 2 weeks. So
2 weeks. Okay.
So
Right.
October 17th.
October 17th, I'm sorry. I don't know
Yes.
where October 5th came from. So October 17th is when early voting starts in about 40 states. Is that correct? And in most states, you can go to anywhere.
Texas is earlier because he
Yeah,
extended
yeah,
it.
yeah.
Okay.
Our governor added another week, so it's 3 weeks.
So 3 weeks.
Yes.
But if you're anywhere in the country, you need to go to vote.org to find out exactly when your state, if it has early voting. And if it does, please get out and vote. But make sure you register by October 5th. Right? Because a month before the election, right?
Yeah.
So make sure you get out and register. I'm hoping Congress can change that. You know, and the next
Or
Congress
you
can
can
change
register the day of.
that. Where you automatically register.
Yeah.
You know,
That would be nice.
with your driver's license. And I'm hoping that Congress will decide to make Election Day a holiday.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that Congress can afford it. The United States can
Yeah.
afford that.
Another thing that also pointed out is Senate appoints ambassadors.
Okay.
What it means ambassador is somebody
It's
represents.
funny because I thought the president does that.
They do the same thing. They appoint,
So the Senate appoints or
no
confirms?
Senate confirms.
Confirm. Okay. Okay.
Confirms.
Right. Gotcha.
So the
ambassadors.
president appoint
Gotcha.
or chooses them.
Chooses
Senate
them, yes.
confirms
That's
and
what-
then
yes.
appointed.
Exactly.
So
Okay.
so the Senate, so an ambassador is somebody who represents the United States when they're talking to a different country.
Okay.
And
Makes
so
sense.
so we don't go into any wars
Gotcha.
in they do coordination with the State Department.
Right. Okay.
So that's important too. That's why another party vote is a part of the Senate who does their job.
Okay.
And the only thing before you continue, I
Mhm.
want to just break down the demographics of the current Senate.
Okay.
There are there are 100 members in the Senate. There
2
are
per state.
2 per state.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 50 states.
Mhm.
There's no senators in Puerto Rico.
What happens in
Guam, or
D.C.
something
from
like
the
that.
state?
In DC.
Then they'll have 2 senators.
That
Different
small little
state.
town with
So-
800,000 population.
So they're bigger. That's one of the bills on Mitch McConnell's desk as well. There's 26 female senators. There's only 3 black senators.
Mm. The oldest one is in South Carolina, isn't it?
Tim Scott.
No.
Yeah, no.
No,
There's
no.
Cory
No, he
Booker.
was not
Cory
born.
Booker is the oldest.
No, he's not the oldest.
The black senator.
Kamala?
No, the senator from South Carolina, the one that endorsed Biden.
That's Tim Scott.
Not in South
Oh no,
Carolina.
sorry. I'm sorry. What senator?
Senator?
The
Oldest?
No,
oldest black senator.
No,
in the
you're
Senate.
talking about the House. Jim Clyburn is a
Is
House.
he Senate?
No,
He's
Is he
a
Senate?
he's a
Okay.
He's a
representative.
representative.
I stand corrected.
Yes.
Okay.
3 is.
He's
Yeah.
still one of the oldest black
Yeah.
congressmen
Mhm.
in Congress. I think
Oh.
You said South Carolina, not
South Carolina.
I said Tim
You're right.
Scott.
Okay,
Four Asian
Uncle
senators
Tim.
for Asian. Okay,
and 4 Latino senators.
interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
So and there's no representation of Native American senators.
Mm.
And just let that sink in. You know, based on your population, based on the Senate, you want to at least have some percentage representatives.
Mhm.
Black Americans are underrepresented.
Mm-hmm.
In fact,
So,
every
because
other,
we're not 14% of the Senate,
no,
which
we
we're
should,
14% of the population. So-
correct. Yeah, so we should have 14 senators.
Hmm. Do I really want a black senator representing me? No, I'm just kidding. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh wow,
He might be Republican.
That's a story in itself. Well, regardless of
You don't speak about it.
conservative, maybe.
I'm
you know,
kind of conservative when it comes to certain things.
certain things. Certain
I've
things.
become more conservative when I got in my 40s. and
You know, maybe a future episode we should say what it means to be conservative and what it means to be. a
we
liberal.
need to. Yes, we should.
Not as in the party, but as
Well, yeah, as an individual.
individual.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'll just wrap it up real quick on this one. In the House of Representatives, 435 members, like we discussed, based on population. Only 100 of them, and this is a record, are female. 101.
That is a record.
Yeah.
And a lot of those came in 2018.
Yes.
Last cycle, yeah.
Last term.
55 House members of what's called the Congressional Black Caucus. Only 55 members, male and female combined, are black.
I didn't know it was that many.
Yeah.
I really didn't know it was that many.
It's not even that a lot. 14 of them are Asian Pacific.
Oh.
There's 41 are Latino. 4 are Native American, which is a record. Now you think about that. Only 4? They're the original Americans. But anyway. And 10 of them are Middle Eastern, North African.
Wow.
And only 7 of them are LGBTQ.
Interesting.
I got a random question though.
Go ahead.
Do you think that we would be more equally or more fairly represented if segregation were still in place, so that all of the votes could be consolidated?
Good question.
That just like hit me. Like, how are we all going to coalesce behind one African American person, or enough to hit that 14% if we're not all coalesced?
Well,
They redline it.
It'll be it'll be a reservation. It'll be an invisible reservation.
Right.
If that's the case, then why are there not more Native Americans represented?
Makes you wonder, is it choice? Is it choice? They choose not to get in politics?
It could be
I don't
a
want
lot of
to
things.
That's like saying back when women weren't allowed to vote, they didn't want to vote, so we didn't push it to getting the right to vote to the 19th Amendment.
If you're a Native American listening to this program, please leave a note on Facebook during this thing.
Yes.
So we like to know where your side of the story lies in this whole.
We're going to start taking chats and responding to chats on Facebook pretty soon. So as one of these ladies volunteer. But anyway, so with that being said, do we have a topic for next week?
That is pending. I'll try to release something during the week.
Okay.
Because you know the news cycle is fluid.
Okay.
Fluid.
We got to see what Trump does the next 7 days. So with that being said,
I mean, we could talk about climate change.
Okay.
With the burn
fires.
We'll talk about that. We will talk about that.
Yes.
We will
But
talk
anyway,
about
it'll be
that.
pending.
Yes. So I want to thank everyone for tuning in to We the People. We will be back next Sunday at 7:30. And again, I hope you guys have a great week, and we'll be talking to you then. No? Yes? No? No? Still here, so. Hey!